Hello and welcome to my channel. I am Zodiac Bandit, and today we're going to be recapping episode 88 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. So let's get into it. We start in the basement of the Jagged Edge in the city of Kaviris. The party is hiding from footsteps above. The party can hear voices saying they've come to collect something, but only part of the conversation can be heard, as some of the people up top seem to be talking in their minds. The voice then mentions that 3 of their people are dead and someone has to pay. The party think about casting Detect Thoughts to hear the other half of the conversation, but they realize that it still won't get the full conversation. Orem listens with his very high perception and can hear 5 footsteps above and something that sounds like a low, cute growl. The growl is weirdly familiar. They wonder if it's a Saita and wonder if Chu, Barthy's Saita, ratted them out after the whole village incident. Orem thinks someone in the street followed them and ratted them out instead. Chetney sniffs around and rolls a perception check of 16, and he smells burnt materials of the shop above, but he does smell that there are a few Rylorans and a handful of other familiar smells, and there is something that is new. The people above say they're going to look around. They start to move about. There's also a strange sound that sounds like grinding on the floor, or shifting in a weird way. Only Lana can see through the darkness sphere that she cast before. Keep in mind the party is communicating telepathically as they have a telepathic bond up. Orem wonders if they could use the hole as a trap, and they all stand around it and let the people above come down one by one and just fall into it and close it when need be. The party liked that idea, but in order to do so, they have to move a bunch of the boxes around down here, and that will make way too much noise. The party are in agreement. If they happen to fight, they will have to kill everyone and make sure that no one gets away. Fern thinks she has a spell to make the basement look empty, but it'll take 10 minutes to cast, so that option is out. The room they are in is only 10 feet tall, so the sphere of darkness only fills the basement they're in and not the ladder space going up to the hatch. Above they hear someone say, "What's in here?" and says to open it. The people are now in the room above them, where the hatch is located, and they can still hear the grinding sound above. 4 footsteps and the grinding sound is what is above them, so someone else is still waiting elsewhere. Matt brings out a nice little map. It's, very small and very cute. Lana uses her immovable rod through the latch of the hatch to make sure it doesn't open. She rolls a 25 stealth check to make sure she doesn't get heard. She makes no noise putting it underneath the hatch. Ashton also positioned his immovable rod hammer on the ladder or in one of the spaces of the ladder to sort of make a tripping point. He is not hurt also. Everyone then positions themselves in the room. They hear the sounds of someone trying to open the hatch above. Then when someone says to open it, they can hear the sound of someone getting hit and then hitting the ground. This happens twice. The party don't want Zesh to take the heat for what's going on, so Lana removes the immovable rod. She then backs up into the darkness and the hatch opens. She sees one of these Sasquatch-looking creatures, of which Matt says he doesn't have a name for yet. So I just want to point that out. That's why I'm calling them Sasquatch things. He sees the darkness and is confused and whistles. One of the worm or snake-like creatures from the last episode that they tried to avoid in the sand goes down the ladder and is now down with the party. It doesn't have any eyes, but it looks to have some sort of gland on its face that tastes the air through to sense the area around them. They're also covered with teeth. It's moving toward Ladna. She warns the others, and there's a group stealth check. Chetney gets a natural 20 for 30. Ladna gets 23. Ashton gets 16. Orem gets 13. Imogen gets 14. Fern with a natural 1, and FCG with a 4. Is that Fern's second natural 1 stealth roll? I feel like she got one last episode as well. The creature moves around the room. Lana creates space and puts a box between her and it. Lana sees that it passes Orem, and it's roughly the same size as him, so it's decently sized for one of these things. Orem is still listening up top and can hear the people still waiting. There's still the same amount of people up top. Lana watches the creature dip into the ground and vanishes. A second passes and it bursts out of the wall right next to Ashton. A dex saving throw is needed from him. He rolls a 22 and is able to avoid the creature. It barks, and then it barks back up to the people upstairs, and the Sasquatch calls it back up, saying that there's nothing there. As it leaves, 2 more bursts out from the walls around the party, and then follow it up. However, Fern and Imogen need to make dex saves as well. Fern with a 21, and Imogen with a 10. Fern dodges without issue. Imogen, however, is hit and knocked to the ground and lets out some air. The creature, the singular one still remaining in the room, turns to her. Lana can see it right near Imogen. The worm opens its mouth and slowly bites down on Imogen's head. She takes 14 damage from this. She remains still, hoping it'll stop and leave, but it doesn't, and it keeps on biting. She takes 13 more damage. Laudna pulls out the Ryloran Juggernaut finger that they've had for a while and tries to put it in between the mouth of the worm and Imogen to sort of lure it away. Laudna rolls an animal handling check, natural 20. She holds the finger out in front of the worm and throws it towards the base of the ladder. The worm follows it, crashing near the ladder, and the Sasquatch whistles for it to come upstairs. Once it finishes, it turns back towards the party. Imogen tries to hide, but rolls a low stealth roll of 7. The worm lunges back towards her. As it gets close, Imogen reaches out and tries to cast Inflict Wounds on it with disadvantage, and she rolls a natural 1. She reaches out and her entire upper body is seemingly swallowed by this worm. It is now time to roll initiative. Initiative rolls are Laudna with a 22, FCG with a 19, Fern with a 17, Orm and Imogen both have a 15, Chetney with an 8, and Ashton with a 5. Laudna is first. She tells everyone to keep calm, and she's going to throw Fern up the hole, but she wants Fern to transform into one of the worm-like creatures to sort of take its place upstairs. Fern then uses her wild shape to turn into what is known as a slither. Laudna then guides Fern over to the ladder. She then holds her action to help throw her up and out of the basement. FCG is up. They cast Guiding Bolt at 4th level at the slither, holding on to Imogen. They hit with 17, which was at disadvantage, and deal 23 damage. FCG then uses a Bonded Blessing to aid Orm and give him a d6 on his turn. The slither is up and it continues to eat Imogen, dealing 17 more damage. The party hears movement upstairs. Fern is now up. She climbs up the ladder with Laudna's help. Fern comes out of the darkness and is lightly floating above the ladder. The Sasquatch asks what's going on, and Fern looks around and rolls a perception check of 20. She has Tremor Sense, and she can sense a handful of Rylorans, 2 Hex Mines, a Shrike, and the Sasquatch creature. And there's also a Vanguard waiting in the room as well. She can also sense that there are 2 other slithers outside, and the 2 other slithers nearby her. So there's 4 slithers besides her in total. The Sasquatch tells her to go, and with that, Fern starts to leave. Laudna insight checks to make sure that the Sasquatch guy is leaving as well, and she rolls a 17 and gets a whisper. Laudna tells everyone to keep quiet. It seems to be working. Fern tries to make it look like she's excited and that something is outside that she's trying to hunt. Performance check of 26, and she does really well and makes the other slithers nearby excited to go chase something as well. It's now Orm's turn. Orm reaches out and finds the creature that is biting down on Imogen and starts swinging for it. He hits with a 28 and deals 17 damage, making it a goading attack. He then hits again for 15 more damage, and then swings and hits with his last one for 16 more damage, killing the slither. Imogen is now free from the mouth, and Imogen is up. She sits in silence, trying to stay hidden from those up top. Her turn then ends. The slither handler goes up to Fern and tells the Rylorans that this place has nothing. All the slithers head outside. There's 4 of them, other than her in total. The Rylorans get ready to leave. Chetney is up and he holds his intact just in case something comes downstairs. The Vanguard head outside. Ashton gets ready to next to his hammer just in case someone comes down as well. Laudna holds her action to drop darkness when everything seems to be safe and ready. FCG finds where Imogen is and is ready to heal once the enemy leaves, so there's no noise. The slithers all scatter outside trying to follow Fern, but they don't really sense anything, unlike her. Fern continues to get the people outside and goes to the door and looks back at the Imperium soldiers, trying to get them to come with her. The Imperium soldiers leave the Jagged Edge, and they all begin to follow Fern. Meanwhile, down below, Laudna drops darkness. Laudna can see that Imogen is looking very rough. FCG heals her for 13 hit points using Healing Word. Orm hears the place is now empty. He goes upstairs and sees Zesh fixing the place up a bit. She tells him to stop, and then she closes the curtains of the place. She thought they had been found for sure. The party thank Laudna for not being found, because she came in clutch with darkness. Zesh sees the dead slither and is terrified, and it must be hidden, but the party have a plan. They always hide the bodies in the black hole. FCG takes some teeth off at first before they put it in the hole. They ask Fern telepathically how she's doing, and Fern is doing great. She has the 4 Imperium soldiers and the 1 Vanguard following her, along with the other Slithers. The Sasquatch asks where she's going. She tries to make it look like she lost the scent, but with a deception check of 8, he tells her to find it again and whips her with what looks to be some sort of whip or cattle prod. She finds a random door and starts barking at it. It's about 2 blocks away from the Jagged Edge. It makes the other Slithers do the same. The 4 Slithers begin to burrow beneath the ground. Fern joins them. It's much like Ashton's Earth Glide, but unlike the other Slithers where they seem to go down into the basement, she doesn't join them. She instead heads back towards the party. She rolls a nature check to see if she can find where the Jagged Edge is, or remember where it is from where she was, and she rolls a 2. She just keeps digging, and after a little while she realizes she doesn't know which way is up anymore. She's completely lost. Fern tells the party that she's lost underground somewhere. She believes she lost the other Slithers, but is completely lost herself within the space that she's in. FCG can cast Locate Creature so they can guide her back to where she's going to need to be. It'll be like Nanamori's Trust exercise. FCG casts Locate Creature. He senses Fern. He tells her to go up, but instead she goes straight down, as that is the orientation she's in. FCG tells her to turn around, and then she shifts her way back up. After 20 minutes of doing this, Fern is eventually guided back to the basement. The party asks Zesh if there is a safe place for them to go. Zesh says not really. Here is probably the best place to stay. The purple lightning doesn't strike twice, but they can't stay for too long. Lana asks Zesh how long they have until sundown. It's still a few hours. Ashton asks about some of the stuff that is made in this shop. They make weapons and all sorts of other decorative stuff. And tools. Ashton shows her his hammer. She likes it, and if Ashton were to ever want to get rid of it, he should give it to her, or at least sell it to her. The store has all sorts of glass weapons in it. Zesh says the strongest weapons are made from the glass that is mined from the deepest parts of the mines here on Ruidus. FCG asks if Zesh can make a saw blade for them out of the glass. Zesh says they'll try. They've never seen something like that before. FCG then gives her the saw hand, and Zesh starts to get to work on making another one. Orm asks what they sell everything for, and Zesh says it's mostly trade, which seems to be about how everything works on Ruidus, trade, not currency. On Ruidus, they don't have anything like iron, gold, or platinum. They have the glass, but bone is the only renewable resource. They even use the bones of their old family members. Zesh has a blade made from her father's bones, which is both really weird and kind of metal. They take what they need, and then they let the rest be reclaimed by the land. It also helps keep bane worms away, which aren't related to slithers in any way. Fern asks how they're supposed to deal with bane worms. Zesh says, don't move or say your prayers. Ashton asks if there's anything for them to sort of buy here that they can wear, and offers up some gems. Zesh says the party seems to have something about them, and they kept the Imperium from finding them out. So she says to take whatever they need and takes a few gems. Orm is messing around with some of the glass swords here. It seems to vibrate and glows when it's near Imogen and Fern. Orm grows a strawberry and gives it to Zesh. She likes it. Orm wants to know how many Zesh needs for a trade, and Zesh says that Ashton already paid, so it doesn't really matter. Fern and Orm then make a basket full of strawberries for her anyway. Imogen asks about the glass wands that the Imperium have had. Zesh doesn't make them, but apparently they need to be recharged by someone in the Imperium for whatever they do. Lana takes some glass daggers and asks Chetney to attach them to Sashimi's hands, because I 100% believe she's going to cast Animate Object on Sashimi. And that is terrifying sounding. A little wooden doll with glass blades for hands. Chetney does so and starts making another toy out of wood. Ashton looks for a glove, as their old glove that used to fit on their new arm no longer fits. He finds a forging gauntlet, and he finds and takes it and thinks that this will work. Orm asks if Zesh has any sheaths around here for the swords, and she doesn't. But Chetney can make a sheath for him out of some wood if he needs. FCG asks if they can add a gem to their chest plate for, a way to show their mood. It's basically a way to show the stress so everyone else understands where they're at. Fern takes the box they grabbed from the fight that they had in the streets the day before, or the session before, and she heads downstairs to dispel magic on it. Orm keeps an eye out in front of the shop, and he rolls a really high perception check. He doesn't see anything get too close to the shop. He does see the group that they were almost fighting earlier, who were above them. They seem to be on some sort of perimeter check. Laudna looks at the scryball. Odahan is in the middle of the city. Zesh adds the gem to FCG's chest plate and also finishes the saw blade and gives it back to them as well. Jess looks outside and sees that it's about dusk. Now is probably the best time for them to move. She points to the tallest tower of the banners and says that is the Overspoke. That is where they're supposed to be going. Fern casts Dispel Magic on the box, and a flash of runes light up, and then they eventually shatter and go away, leaving the box dull and dark. Chetney then tries to unlock it with a 31 with guidance on his lockpicking check. He unlocks it expertly, and inside is something wrapped in velvet. He looks for any extra traps with an investigation check of 17. No traps. Before Chetney grabs this wrapped velvet thing, he looks for some extra traps and doesn't see any. He unwraps it, and it's some sort of hexagonal device. It's similar to the crystals that they saw near the Malleus Key that were dispelling magic, but much more refined. It's not like anything they've ever truly seen aside from that one instance before. However, the corners on it seem to be rough, as if it's very old or had a difficult journey. Chetney lifts it and it is very heavy, and it has a bunch of runes on it. Laudna can read them with her Eyes of the Runekeeper part of her pact, or part of her class. It seems to be some sort of abjuration magic. Laudna rolls Arcana and rolls a natural 20. It's part of a bigger piece. It's not about protecting abjuration magic, but instead disrupting other types of magic. And she starts to see that it's very similar to something that they saw in Imahari Joe's shop once before, on the inside of FCG. This device is Aeorian. At this point, the party start to ask about the glass weapons. Matt explains that the glass weapons crit on a 18 to 20, which is cracked, but they break on a 1 to 6 roll. So if they roll an attack roll and get a 1 or a 6, or anywhere in between, it breaks. The glass blades get better near Ruid is born, and since they're always near Ruid is born, so they're always better. And they also glow within 60 feet of Ruid is born, which is kind of iffy for stealth. They are more likely to hit and give advantage to whoever they hit as long as they're near Ruid is born, which is also fucking insane. FCG looks over the Aeorian piece that they found earlier and gets a 22 Arcana check. They see that it is designed to interfere and scramble other types of magic, but the party need to find someone with more knowledge of Aeor and stuff like that to get a better understanding. FCG thinks this is the right time to go meet D. Finally. They put the Aeorian device inside the black hole, and the party get ready to leave. Zesh wishes them luck and says if everything goes well, they won't see each other again. Zesh pushes them outside and then locks the door behind them. They are all in their Vanguard outfits, and they look at the scryball. Odahan seems to be below the party underground in the center of the city. The party will walk with confidence through the city to try to blend in, so a group deception check. 6 from Chetney, 20 from Laudna, 16 from FCG, Fern with a 15, Imogen got a natural 20, Orm with a 16, and Ashton with a 4. They blend in well as they see people coming out of their homes as they walk towards the tall spire. People are looking up at the sky and up at Exandria, the Blue Promise. It's beautiful and is also a little sad as the people aren't quite sure what the promise is. The party moves through the Clutch, which is the lower part of the city, and they come to a cluster of homes near a tower that has a staircase that spirals around the outside of the tower. There's a few guards around it, but there's a lack of danger in the air. They don't have a description of Arat, the person they're supposed to be finding. They see 2 guards at the base of the tower, and 1 is further up the stairs. The party choose to be direct and ask the guards for Arat. Imogen will do it, as she has the highest charisma. Chetney gives Imogen a toy under a cloth and tells her not to look at the toy. Laudna goes with Imogen, and they leave Pate with the larger group, and the rest hang back. Imogen goes to the base of the stairs. The guard, as they approach, stands proud. They are a young Ryloran. The guard goes to ask what they need, but then sees Imogen and says that they didn't know she was coming and asks what she needs in her head. Imogen in his head says that she needs to go up the tower. High deception roll, like stupid high. I'm pretty sure it was like near 30. He lets her pass. They walk up and reach the next guard, who is told to stand down by the other one below, and they're able to move past him as well, no problems. They climb up a ton of levels of these stairs. It gets a little exhausting. As they get to the top, or one level down from the top, They hear someone call out from above them and ask them who they are. Imogen and Lana ask if it's a rot. He says that he is, and a rot is a Ryloran as well. Imogen tells him that she needs access to the top of the tower where he is. He asks what for, and Imogen says none of his business. Deception check of 25. He says, of course, I serve the Imperium. All of these guards believe that she is Liliana Tumlet. He opens the door and they head up to where he was at the top of the tower. She tells her out to keep quiet about this and that she was never here. He says yes. Imogen and Lana start looking out for the purple on any of the buildings here in the banners. Imogen takes a rot spyglass to make it a little easier and hands it to Lana. Lana looks for some purple through the spyglass with advantage, and with a 24 perception check from Lana, only 3 minutes pass and she's looking throughout the banners. For the most part, the colors there are a bunch of brownish and reds, so it's really easy to find the purple. There's a single purple flag near freshly excavated dirt. There's a metallic gate pressed into the rock wall that is the base of the mountain range that surrounds the city. Lana shows Imogen, and they take a bit more time to make sure that that is the correct purple they're looking for. There are more colors throughout the banners, but none of them stand out quite as much as this purple does. The two begin to head back down to the bottom. They hand the spyglass back to Arat. The two head back down, and there's more guards at the bottom. They seem to all want to get a look at Liliana. As they are seen, the guards begin to scatter a little bit, and Imogen gets the sense that there's a bit of mythology surrounding her mother. Lana tells them to break it up, but instead of them all leaving, they all sort of line up for Liliana's presence instead. Orm walks up and makes it look like he's part of her guard, and the others join in as well. They all walk away and no one seems to follow her. They seem to be a little nervous to try to follow Liliana. Chenny takes the toy back, as they didn't need to use it. Imogen puts her hood up to not draw attention to herself, and they head toward the flag that they saw before. Another deception check for which they all roll stupidly high. They carefully shift their way towards the flag. They've made it to a dump region of an excavation tunnel. Tons of rock all over the place, and there's a few small buildings where people would likely post up as guards. A Sasquatch figure comes out of one of these small buildings and has one of those bone wand crystal things that FCG was asking about earlier. He says to stay away from the pit unless they're here on Imperium business. They see the purple flag is on top of his building, and FCG says that they won't need their weapon. Orm says that they know Zesh, persuasion check of 19. Imogen looks into his head and he is very nervous. The Sasquatch says that she makes a lot of glass, right? Imogen asks if he's loyal to the Imperium, and he sees her, and in his head, he is now terrified. Imogen says that she is not her mother, and with a persuasion check of 24, he looks over the party and seems a little confused. Orm suggests they go inside and talk, and he agrees, and they all head into his hut. It's kind of small, only 15 by 15, and it's very tight inside. He asks what's going on. FCG says that they are friends of the Volition, and then FCG asks for his name, and he is Amido. Orm says that they've come a long way. Amido immediately knows that they're from Exandria, and Amido asks if Liliana is really Imogen's mother. FCG says yes, but they aren't in line with her. Lana says they are against the Imperium and want to help the people of Ruidus. Orm says there are people on both Exandria and Ruidus who they're trying to stop because they're bad people. Amido says that they should talk to Rashida, or the Golden Hammer, who is the leader of the Volition. She and Gas Tomo are the ones that they should be talking to, not him. Lana asks where they can find her. Amido says this way and steps outside and whistles. Another person from the other hut goes to the gate at the back near the mountain wall and opens it. Amido says don't go as a group and to space out how they enter. Orm shakes his hand and thanks him and gives him a handful of blueberries. Amido is in shock and eats them, and he smiles while doing so. Chenny walks toward the gate first, and then walks through. Fern follows next, and eventually they all take their time to get through the gate. As the last one enters, the gate behind them closes. Once they're all inside, they take off their Vanguard clothing. They're in a 20-foot wide tunnel that slopes downward. They can see carts that would be pulled by Wookors, and as they walk through the tunnel, lanterns light up as they get nearby. The tunnel eventually thins out, and it gets really steep. They come out to another opening, and they can hear a voice asking who they are. Orm says that they are friends of the Volition, and the voice asks them to prove it. They take out a head of a juggernaut and throw it into the open space. The dark figure leans over it, looks at it, and kicks it back. The voice says it's for Rashida to decide. They're holding on to another one of those wand cannon-like things, as Matt keeps describing them. They follow him down a tunnel that connects to other tunnels. He then turns down what looks to be a freshly dug tunnel, barely braced by anything, but when it is braced, there are bones seemingly bracing it, which means that these are massive bones. They follow for another 15 minutes. He keeps looking back at them. They keep themselves in the shadow, so it's hard to tell exactly what they are. They eventually reach a large wooden door. The figure hits it with his wand one time, and a false window is pulled out. There are no words exchanged between the two people standing there. The figure then turns back towards the party and says if they're telling the truth, the Volition will know soon, and if they aren't, the party will die. He walks past them and they can see he is a Rylauren with what looks to be snow-white eyes and a massive scar on his face. The party turn back and the door is now open, and it looks like roots are sort of retreating back into the tree, which is kind of cool. It leaves an open space for them to enter. They enter, and they are now in a plain open antechamber, and there are 4 other figures, much like the guy that they just walked with, at all other sorts of doors. As the party step in, they become surrounded by other hooded figures. There's about 35 in total. They see what look to be the outlines of Rylauren, humanoids, tall and lanky people, juggernauts, Bormodo, halflings. No details, as they're all covered to make sure they remain unidentifiable. They see a green scaled dragonborn in heavy armor, however. Everyone in the room is staring at the party. They eventually part, and a Rylauren woman walks forward. She has plate mail on, or half plate mail, and has gauntlets on her hands, and with a hammer swinging from her hip. Her crest head splits into 3 at the top. She has chains hanging from her face, and she steps forward towards the party and asks them for their leader. The party don't really know, and Orm pushes Imogen forward. The chamber goes hush as she steps forward into the light, and they can see her hair and her crackling scars. The Rylauren asks if she's related to Liliana, and Imogen says that she is Liliana's daughter. Everyone in the chamber pulls out their glass weapons. Imogen says that she's not loyal to her mother. The Rylauren says that they put a lot of effort into finding them. They can say what they want before they are struck down by the group. Imogen says that they want to stop them. They want to stop the Imperium, and they want to stop the enemies. The Rylauren asks for assurances that they aren't an instrument of the Weave Mind. Imogen says that they aren't, with a 25 perception check. The Rylauren looks over the party. They feel as though they've been sort of invaded. Their minds have been invaded. The Rylauren believes that they believe they aren't working for the Imperium. She says if they want to know what their intent is, she'll show them. She starts to leave the large antechamber, and the surrounding group parts for her, and the party follows. There's a glass wall on the other side of the chamber. The Rylauren raises her finger, and the glass wall becomes clear. They can see a massive underground chamber. They see a never-ending space filled with hundreds of bridges and structures. It looks like a hive of networks that makes up a large city space. Thousands of lanterns light the homes here. This is the heart of Kaviris. They see the people moving about. It seems very lively, unlike the upper part of Kaviris. There's architecture that seems Exandrian but changed and altered, maybe older than what they've seen before. And some of it seems to be made new and unique. In the middle is a singular spire of glass that rises up, that all of the paths connect to it. There's a bunch of strongholds built into it. It looks like a tree that everything comes from. The Rylauren figure Rashma says that that's what they want. It's inside there. The 5 minds that have enslaved them, and the glowing entity in the center of the city that aim to bring it down. And that's where the session ends. So there you have it, episode 88 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role. I very much enjoyed this. I thought we learned a great deal about like how Liliana Tomblet is perceived. We started to learn a bit more about how like the glass weapons work, which is really cool. I'm very excited to see how they work in combat. I'm really hoping one of the party members who now have one, which is Orm, Chetney, and FCG, go to swing it for the first time and then like it instantly rolls a 1 to 6 and it breaks. I think that'd be hilarious. But Also, we got to learn like the sort of perception surrounding Liliana Toomlet, which is really cool. I like that there's like some sort of mythology built around her, that she seems to be sort of regarded very highly, or is like, you know, a demanding presence within the sort of Imperium or the Ruby Vanguard, as even Ryloran people seem to sort of, you know, hold her in awe, which is really interesting. I wonder how that means they perceive Ludinus and Odahan. So I'm very interested in seeing that. And also our first glimpse of the underground version of Kaviris. It's not our first glimpse, but it's like the first really good look that wasn't part of like Dreamwalking. So I'm very, very excited to see more about that, and very excited to learn more about the Volition. These characters seem really cool and interesting to me, so kind of interested in all that. But yeah, another really good setup episode. I know a lot of people are probably done with setup episodes because there's been a lot, but in a story like this, setup is necessary, so that way you get the grand picture at the end. Hopefully the grand picture is worth it. We're still yet to see if that will be the case. Hopefully it is, but I feel like it will be. The setup is very good, and I'm very intrigued by it. I sort of, when I like in picture, or when I pictured like the hive mind, or like the underground version of Kaviris, I picture like the Ants movie, you know, with like the underground ant colony. That's just kind of what I picture. I don't know why, but that's what comes to mind first. So yeah. Anyway, that has been episode 88 of Campaign 3 of Critical Role, and I will see you guys on Tuesday with a video where I talk about Daggerheart. I'm going to be going over the things that I like and the things I don't like, and sort of just have a general discussion about Daggerheart. So if you wanted me to talk about that, that is coming. That'll be Tuesday's video. And then after that, we'll be recapping episode 89. So yeah, I already have my week scheduled, thank God. Anyway, I'll see you guys then. Peace.